go. All right. Hello and welcome everybody to day 5 of our Feel to Heal Emotional Revolution. And Facebook has decided on day 5 that it doesn't want to be Zoom's friend, or maybe it's Zoom doesn't want to be Facebook's friend, but for whatever reason, we're not able to stream live. So I do want to thank you for your patience and understanding with this. However, the show always goes on, as they say in the classics, and it is going to go on today. I am, first of all, this whole week has cracked me wide open. I couldn't anticipate how it would impact me, but I've gone to bed every night just a little more wide open from the incredible guests that have just been so forthcoming in sharing their stories and their tips and their advice and how they've navigated their own experiences with these emotions. And also every one of you that has watched the replays and sent me messages and comments, and I've had a ton of private messages from so many of you sharing, what how it's helped you and how it's supported you and how grateful you are. But I am just so grateful for you. Over 100 people registered to be part of this event, which tells me this is something that we need more of. We need more conversations about our emotions and about feeling to heal. And I couldn't be more happy or more grateful to our final guest for the week, Terilee Harrison. Welcome to our Feel to Heal Emotional Revolution. How are you?
So I just have to say I'm fantastic and just so grateful for the invitation to be part of this amazing event. I've been able to catch some replays and the fact that I'm included in this, I'm just so appreciative.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to see, can you turn the volume up on your microphone just a little bit?
I think I can just be more focused on.
Okay, that's cool. I don't want to make it difficult for you, but
I can speak up. Is that better?
Okay. Fantastic. Yes. Now I want to share how we connected. So anyone who knows me knows that I now speak the language of synchronicity, at least my own language of synchronicity. It is definitely the guidance of my higher self. So when that voice speaks, I listen. And I was so fortunate to meet Terilee in a mutual group that we were a part of, the Serving Circle. It's how I met Ian as well. And I was listening to Terry speak, and this thing inside of me, this energy inside of me was going, connect with Terilee, connect with Terilee. And so I did, and we've done some stuff together and gotten to know each other a little more. But when we had that first chat, so many parallels and things that were just so resonant for both of us. So I'm so grateful that I got to know Terilee. But then Ian, who was on Wednesday, interviewed Terilee on his page and his show. And I spent, I was just, so pulled into Terilee's story. And it is because of that I invited Terilee to come on and be our guest today. You all know that I haven't chosen the textbook experts for these emotions. I've chosen the people that I know who have personally experienced these emotions and, in my opinion, have navigated them not just powerfully for themselves, but powerfully for those that they share their stories with as well. So Terilee, I am so grateful that you've agreed to come on. All of these emotions that we've spoken about this week, I've stated that we're sharing them from a place of joy and a place of expansion, and not from a place of, we're just covertly speaking about them. We are speaking about them very openly, but I do want to honor and acknowledge you for agreeing to be my guest today. So today's emotion is shame and or embarrassment. Honestly, there's a lot of, I did a little post earlier today that gave a whole bunch of feelings that fall under the umbrella of shame or embarrassment. So I'm going to start, Terilee, by inviting you to just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and who you serve. So let's start there.
That sounds great. Thank you. I am so honored every day to get up in the morning, and most of my work is on Zoom. Get up in the morning and hit Zoom. I am working with a global online referral organization. It's called TEAM Referral Network Virtual Chapters, where we come alongside coaches, consultants, small business owners from around the world, and we teach them how to bring referrals for each other. And I do this from my home in Singapore, but have the ability to help people throughout the English-speaking world. So that's a little bit about what I'm up to. We do tons of networking, tons of events, tons of meeting awesome, incredible people just like Jen. And every day is just a joy. Every day is a joy.
Thank you for sharing that. Now let's talk about your story, and I'm just going to stop speaking, which people go, Jen, that's not possible, but I am going to stop speaking, and I'm going to invite you to share your story about your experience with embarrassment and shame.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask you with this question, like, what is the time, like how condensed do you want this?
You can go all in. We've got an hour, so everyone's had an hour. If we take the hour, great. If we don't take the hour, that's also great. So you be as expansive and as expressive as you want to be. I think whatever comes through is exactly what needs to come through.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that if we were going for 10 minutes or what we were going for. So thank you for the opportunity to share my story. It is truly an honor and a gift. It's truly an honor and a gift to be able to share with you all today. So I'm sitting before you, and I am almost a 54-year-old woman. And, you know, we've all lived our life and have our experiences, and we all experience things that change us, that cause us. No one, I think, is exempt from what they go through. That we all have the things. And in my case, my things happen to be health challenges. And health challenges that I had 3 major surgeries by the time I was 14 years old. I have a double kidney on the right-hand side. Was causing me problems, and I had the issues corrected when I was 4. When I was 14, I have scoliosis. They ended up fixing the curvature in my spine, or improving it a little bit, and they put rods in. But the issue that really caused most of my angst, and why we would talk about shame today, is I was also born with an underdeveloped reproductive tract, which in plain English for me means that I was born without a vagina. Now, Jen, most people just wouldn't be talking about that. And the thing is I didn't for a very long time. So what did that look like? I was 12 years old. And for those who can remember back to like puberty, right? We're just starting to learn about the birds and the bees. It's an awkward time anyway for girls to be thinking about getting their periods. The boys are starting to go through their things, and it is just a bloody awkward situation anyway. But then you find out that not only have you been kind of sick and not well your whole life, or it was implied to me like I hated PE. I wasn't strong. I was more of the like little princess and like did music instead. So I was always implied to me I wasn't strong. But then the way this was presented to me, everyone, I took on that I was different than all other girls. As it was presented to me, back at the time they did the kidney surgery, they had done an exploration. So 4 years old, my parents are out in the waiting room. They're waiting on the news of their 4-year-old daughter, and the doctor came outside and said, "Your daughter looks like a museum inside. It appears she was a twin, but the egg didn't split." Okay? So that implied it was me, right? And many of us have gone through trauma in our life where we take it in, we take it on, we hold it. And in my case, I didn't know what to do with thinking I was different than all other girls. And I don't remember a actual meeting, although there must have been, but maybe I've just like put it aside. But when my parents like sat me down and said, you know, they were concerned people would make fun of me. So they felt we needed to hold it close to the vest and keep it a secret. And so I can tell you, like back in the 6th grade, when I had that surgery, my best friend, my best buddy in Ohio, you know, she didn't know. I don't even think my sister knew why I was in the hospital. Like it was close to the vest. I mean, you had to be like super close in our family to know.
And I think just because this is a theme with everyone's story this week, and we've, you know, we've been saying all the way through, and I love what you just said then, that you know, this is all your parents had available to them, right? In
Yes.
terms of what do we do with this? We don't want our little girl to, you know, feel anything more than she's already feeling. So their response was, let's just keep this really quiet. It's like I've, you know, said, you know, the whole time my kids grew up, I used to tell them never to be sad. You know, I thought I was raised, you know, I was wearing this badge of honor of going, yeah, I'm mum of the year because I'm raising these really tough, resilient kids. But I now know what a disservice that was to them, to not invite them to feel their sadness. So yeah, you know, and this is for our parents and for us as parents to know that, you know, don't be hard on yourselves, or don't be, you know, judge yourselves. You know, we all know what we know until we know something else, and that's the only way we can really peacefully navigate life. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because it is something that's come up through a lot of the conversations this week.
I bet it has. I bet it has. And let me say, I believe my parents did the best they could at the time, and they were awesome as far as all the medical and all the things. Okay. They were awesome. They were awesome. And it probably was the right thing not to go tell everybody, right?
Sure.
I mean, who wants to grow up like that?
Yeah.
Who wants to grow up like that, right? But the thing for me is, I stuffed it in, and I began this journey of walking the planet every day from 12 years old with, I'm not good enough, and it's not okay to be me.
Yeah.
And you don't wake up every day and you put your feet on the floor as you're sitting up out of bed and say those things out loud, but as you know, it's always there. It's always there. So how did that play out in my life? That is the main thing. And that is because on the outside, nobody knew, right? I was a pretty young girl, pretty teenager, right? And so several things. So number one, I decided I was going to focus on being perfect. I wanted good grades. I dated the best boys, did all the best things, right? And that but I didn't realize at the time, I think a lot of that stemmed from, I thought, well, if I'm perfect, they won't see, right? If I'm perfect, they won't see. And then
makes a good shield, doesn't it? It's like a really good mask.
Yes, it's an awesome mask if you're looking for a mask. and then I began looking for love in all the wrong places. And so if we were to go through like I say sometimes when I look back on my life and some of my relationships, it's like there's like a war zone. I couldn't handle relationships very well. And so I would cause myself, I didn't think I was good enough, right? So a lot of imploding, not very many lifetime relationships. I have some friends that like, I look at them now and like, they have these other friends for years. And I'm like, oh, I didn't do very good at that. But in looking for love in all the wrong places, you know, I didn't pick very well. I didn't pick men very well. And when I did, I didn't behave very well. And so I say that I was the cheater. I was cheated on, and I've been the other woman. Like I just could not hold it together. I just could not hold it together. And so lots of pain. In the case of my story, I've been married several times, and my second marriage is my daughter. I have a daughter just turned 27 yesterday. In the case of her father, he was actually someone else, or someone who was married to someone else at the same time he was married to me. An angry alcoholic. I mean, I had my mask, and so did he. He was totally, everything about him was a lie.
Mm.
But there was portions of me that everything about me was a lie too, right?
Isn't that the mirroring of the world? You know, the universally, the law, you know, the world is a mirror for us, isn't it? It's reflect, you know, whatever's reflecting back to us is what we're reflecting out. And so it's kind of no surprise that that was the relationship that that came to you, right?
Yes, yes. It's now I get it. Now I get it. But at the time, no, I didn't get it at all. Right? We don't. You know, we don't. And so I'm in the middle of this drama, and as that drama, it was. There's so much to say. We could have a week-long episode of the life of Terilee. But as that came to a close, then I ended up, and I'm still dealing with all my things. But I was mad at men, and that led me to having an affair. And because, and also, you know, when you don't feel lovable, you know, it was just like, I want this, but I don't want this. So this is how I'm going to settle for this. And I don't recommend that at all to anyone, whether you're single and seeing someone married and cheating. It is just not the way to go. It is not the way to go. And it was at the time, I'll tell you what a game changer was for me in my life. And that was that my mother was dying. My mom had juvenile diabetes. She'd been sick my whole life, and she was dying. And I have to say, like, I was raised in a Christian home, you know, learning values, learning the right things. And it's not that I wasn't, but I was struggling in my life just with my disaster of what was happening inside. And but as my mom passed away, I was like, you know, what are you doing with your life? I started facing my own mortality, and I was like, you know better than this. And that's when I decided I was going to get my act together. So part of getting my act together meant I was going to end that relationship. And at the time I ended that relationship, I learned that I was pregnant.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't work out very well either, everyone. No, that doesn't work out very well. But I had decided, I had practically been a single mom with my daughter, that my son, who was born 8 years later, I could do it. I could do it. And I had this beautiful boy, and I began raising them both on my own. So I ended up, believe it or not, in the effort to get my act together and get things straight, I ended up, believe it or not, I didn't trust myself to pick somebody. I let eHarmony.com do it for me. And I ended up, when my son was almost a year old, remarrying. And I finally had picked someone who was, I think because my act was a little more together, I picked someone more capable of having a healthy relationship. Now, it was very dangerous for him to marry me at the time because I hadn't done my work yet. Okay. So what began to have me really see what I'd been up to, what had been happening, and the reality of the nightmare and the situation was, I was sitting in front of a business coach one day, Jen. I was working for myself, and I finally had access to some personal development and professional development. And he says to me, what would you like to work on today? And I said to him, well, I said, I'm really unorganized. I said, if you walk in my house, I said, it looks like it's all clean and together, but if you open any drawer, any cupboard, my closets, they're just a disaster. I said, oh my gosh, we can't even park our car in the garage. And he says, he's sitting across from me at a Starbucks, and he goes, well, tell me about your childhood.
You can see me smiling because I know where this is going to go.
He said, tell me about your childhood. And I looked at him and I thought, inside, I'm like, he thinks I was abused or something. And I go, oh, I had a great childhood. And I said, but I was sick a lot. So this is 30 years later. I'm 42 years old. So about 11 years ago now, I'm 42 years old, 30 years of carrying this load, right? Not thinking about it. I've forgotten all about it. It's long gone. Well, it's there, but it's long gone for me consciously every day.
It's like, yeah, I've dealt with that. Yeah, I've moved on.
Oh,
it's all good.
Oh, yeah. And I went home that night, and there's something different that we have these days that we didn't have back when I was diagnosed, and that's the internet. So I didn't know what to put. And I typed in absence of vagina. I didn't know what to put, and lo and behold, to me, a bunch of stuff came up.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay. So as I go to really look at what is there, I realized that I have a condition 1 in 5,000 women have, and nobody really talks about it.
Mm.
It's called Mrkh syndrome, and it stands for the initials of the 4 doctors that found it. And
Wow.
it's all the things I talk about. It's the kidney malformations, the skeletal malformations, and the underdeveloped reproductive tracts, right? And in the scheme of this, it's like for the reproductive tracts, well, all of it, I think it's almost like if autism has a spectrum, this has a spectrum. Everybody's situation is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because when I tell you that I had an underproductive oh my gosh, I can't say it today, that I didn't have, everything wasn't fully developed. But what did I tell you? I have a 27-year-old daughter and I have a son that's almost 18, right? Can you believe that I was able to conceive and birth 2 children with what I've told you? Okay.
It's you know, like I remember when I heard you talking to Ian, and I had all these questions going, how does it happen? How did that work? How did that all happen?
It's interesting. It's so interesting. And the one thing is, like, no one told me when I was young, you'll never have kids. So I just always assumed it was a possibility. And I was having periods, right? So what I came to learn on the computer that night was that most of the women who have this condition, that they don't find out when they're 12 and they need an operation to begin their menstruation. They find out when they're like 16 and 17, haven't started their period yet. And that's when they go to the doctor and find out. It's not that they say, I think it's way more politically correct to say I was born without a uterus than to say I was born without a vagina, for me. But it's true. But I had a uterus, right?
Yeah.
But these young ladies, unfortunately, find out when they're, 16 that they'll never have kids. That's hard.
Yeah. So this is, so it was because your parents addressed it when before you went through puberty, so to speak. That's why you were able to then go on and have children.
It's because I actually, it doesn't look like, if we were to look at my uterus beside a normal uterus, it's not fully developed. Like, I only have 1 tube and 1 ovary. The other one doesn't look right, and the whole right side of my uterus isn't developed. So actually, I don't know what you all believe, and I'm going to say, if you believe God makes things, I don't know who you believe makes the things in the world, but what changed my life was the belief that I wasn't junk and it wasn't okay to be me. What changed my life was realizing that I was actually a miracle the whole time and had no idea.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. That right there. If we could have something for the whole week,
Yes.
it's that I was a miracle all along, and I just didn't know it.
And I didn't know it. So imagine, like, the shift for me. So number 1, I'm not alone. There's a whole community of women. Number 2, I was a miracle. Shift, boom. I'm a miracle the whole time, and I had no idea, right? So even those things began to make my load lighter. Yeah. And I remember going to people for the first time, because I hadn't told people, mind you, right? And saying, I've learned something and I want to share it with you, like, to the people I was close with.
So you'd not been able to share this with your previous husbands?
No. Like, the men knew.
Right.
Right. But it wasn't like I'd been telling my girlfriends the whole time.
Right.
No. I mean, it was like, it just wasn't part of what I did and who I was, right? And it led me to my lighter load, led me to more personal development. And I have to say, of this condition, that what I think the most traumatizing thing isn't always the physical part, it's the emotional aspect. And now I'm in Facebook groups with people from around the world, and it's their pain, right? Their pain, their struggle with their infertility, their struggle with all the things. So more and more people are coming out. You might hear about it more now. And what you're probably going to hear is, I was born without a uterus. More. The uterus transplants that are happening in the world now, it's mostly these people.
Wow.
That makes sense?
Think about it. Right. I'd never, until I heard your story, I'd never heard of it. Like, I'd never, nothing. But it's so interesting that you just said then that you were able to, your load lightened when you realized it wasn't just you, right?
Yep. And on top of it, I was a miracle and I had no idea. I mean, that for me was like, holy cow, right? And my kids, like their circumstances, I know that probably there's a lot of human beings that their children were not conceived under the best of circumstances. My daughter's dad was married to someone else at the same time. My son, I'm coming off of an affair. I'm raising both of them on my own, right? It's like, it's not the best of circumstances, but they are miracles, and they are my gift. And they are my gift.
So let's speak to, from that turning point, which was 11-ish years ago now, wasn't it? So if you can share a little bit about your relationship now and your relationship with your kids, being that you now have had that load lightened in that you can be more accepting of you. How has that changed your relationships, or has it?
You know, well, it's been a journey, and you all see the Supergirl cape beside me.
I was going to mention the Supergirl cape. Yes, talk about that.
No, I would have never had a Supergirl cape probably in the past, and I'm regretful that as my daughter was young, that I wasn't the same woman I am today. We've gone on this journey together, if you will, and she's watched me grow, and that's been amazing. And she is a beautiful person doing beautiful work in the world, and serving others. But like I look now and it's not here. Where is it? I don't know, but I have pictures of my granddaughter and I. So Harper is like 2.5, and she has her own little cape, and we have pictures of us in our capes. And I look at them sometimes, the pictures. I should have had it here. I wasn't thinking. But I'm like, I wish I would have been this woman for my daughter from the time she was little, but we can't change those things, right?
No. Oh, no. And I love that you said that. You know, one of the things for me as well, and I just this morning, it was so beautiful. My kids are 24. My son is 24. My daughter's 22. And they FaceTime me there was a 3-way FaceTime this morning, and it was it was so fun, and we're just laughing and joking and, teasing each other. And it was just such a beautiful call. But one of the things for me too, that I'm most proud of is that they have been able to witness my own evolution of self as well, because of course we have different stories, but I go back 15 years, and it's interesting. And I tell people that I work closely with, but when I was writing my book, I asked both my kids separately. They were in their late teens, about to be 20, when I asked them separately this question. And I asked them how they remembered me when they were in high school, when they were teenagers. How did they, how would they have described me? Now I'm thinking, because I was a solo mom, right, doing it all, and I thought that they were going to say things like, that I was really inspiring and that I worked so hard and, all those kind of things. And do you know what they said? I asked them separately. They answered exactly the same, and I received it. But they answered, they remembered me as tired, sad, and angry.
Oh, gosh.
That's how they remembered me. Both of them answered the same thing. I asked them separately. And so, what I am most proud of is, and that's why I'm so proud of my own evolution of self, because I'm no longer a martyr. I'm no longer teaching them how to be a martyr to life. I'm modeling how to love life and how to, I share, and you saying what you just said, Terry, just made me want to share that, because I can hear that in your story, that you have now done that for your children too. You're modeling life, right?
Yes. We look at being our authentic selves, showing up as us, being true to our story, right? It's so important. And you mentioned your book. So there came a time in my journey when I began telling my story, and when I wrote my story. And this isn't because I want anyone to buy my book, but to take an ugly story that had so much ugliness. And so my story is The Shameless Life, Recognize Your Shame and Overcome It. But to take a story that has so much pain and and drama and all the things, right? And to be able to put it in a beautiful package, what a journey that was. And then when we talk about shame, I did bring some information today in case
yes.
you
So,
share.
so coming now round to, you know, because you would have watched some of the lives, and what I really wanted to make sure was that you know, this week is all about, you know, it's not counseling, it's not psychology, it's not coaching, it's education, conversation, and validation of these emotions. So I asked every guest to bring some practical tools or information that anybody listening to this could take away and you know, that might support them. So yes, please go there for me.
Oh, this is so great, you guys, because okay, I hired a book coach, and I said, I want to tell my story, and this is my story. And she goes, oh, this is a book about shame. And I'll never forget, I was sitting on the phone with her, right? And I was like, yes, but I was like, oh, it is? I had no idea, okay?
Right,
I had
because
no
when
idea.
you're in it, when
Oh,
you
no. I had no clue whatsoever. So as I began researching shame, I was blown away that I was the global poster child for what a life of shame looked like. Like all the things I described to you, right? I had no idea that I could have been like the global poster child, and I had no clue whatsoever. And shame is dark. We all experience it, some more than others. Shame comes from three places, and that is my case. Well, I experienced all of it because of it, but awkward feelings about how you're made somehow, and that's personal for everyone. It can be, I'm too tall, I'm too short, my skin's too light, my skin's too dark, right? I'm dyslexic, I have alopecia, I'm losing my hair, I don't have a vagina, right? And that's a little awkward, right? But well, there you go. It stands out. It's not, but the thing about it is, it's personal.
I want to add one in there as well. Adoption. So adoption, you know, is something that can really, that can be a thing for in that, where did I come from? And then,
it can. And then there's the shame of the things people have done to us. So it can be the physical abuse, the emotional abuse. And like, I had no idea until I started researching shame that a third of the people walking the planet have been abused. Like when that coach said to me that day at Starbucks, tell me about your childhood. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been surprising to him if I would have admitted this, you know, if I would have admitted that had happened to me. And I realize how many people it's happened to. And so I just want to speak to you and say, it's not okay. And I'm sorry. It's not okay. And I'm sorry. And the third place is shame over the things we've done. So believe me, I'm not proud about like having a child with a married guy. Okay. I'm not. But it's how we choose to hang on to things or process through things and move through them. We can carry things with us our whole life, or we can make a move. And so, Jen, with your permission, I'd like to share just a couple things I learned about how shame affects our lives, just so hopefully it will help some of our people here today.
Please do.
So here's some of the tangible ways that shame affects lives. So number one, shame won't let you receive love. You tend to destroy otherwise healthy relationships, and you find it impossible to receive authentic compliments. Shame can put you in the bondage of self-perception. So even though you truly want to believe wonderful things about yourself, you simply can't. Shame handcuffs you to your past. You want to hope for better things for the future, but you can't seem to overcome your past. Shame can steal your joy. You find yourself constantly looking for an abundant life, and you never find it. Shame can make you settle for less than you deserve. You make poor decisions and live in regret. And even though you know that you want to have wonderful relationships and abundant blessings, you cannot. Shame can cause a loss of identity. Since you believe there's something wrong with who you are, you look to others to tell you what they believe, what they like, what they don't like, their politics, their career choices, and what they do with their free time. I used to do that. I just go along with my friends. I didn't choose anything. We would just hang, and I just literally did it. Here's shame can produce physical symptoms. The feelings that you try so hard to hide and deny, they're going to come out. You might get headaches, stomach aches, work yourself to exhaustion, have anxiety, and your body is going to react even when you're controlling your emotions. I talked about this. Shame can manifest itself as perfectionism. Perfectionism is an attempt to gain the love you so desperately want but never received. Since shame says there's something wrong with you, if you can be perfect in every way, then you can be loved. And lastly, like I had no clue. But and when I tell people, I think some of them are taken off guard, but I believe we can all be addicted to something. And it's just at what level, what is it, and at what level of addiction, right?
Great.
Shame is the base. Shame is the base for all addiction. It manifests in addictions to things like alcohol, drugs, food, sex, television, work, shopping, exercise, relationships, gambling, adrenaline, and control, right? And these things temporarily relieve stress, anxiety, intimacy problems, and encourage the avoidance of true feelings.
It's deep, Terilee. I mean, it really, you know, and this whole week is about just, you know, can we open the door just a little more? You know, can we just open it up a little more? And what I want to ask is, if there's anyone listening to this, and I know there will be, that is resonating in some way, is there, what would be a step or a small, you know, something, you know, what would you recommend? What would you suggest that would be a helpful step?
That's a good question, because it is deep. And even that day when the book coach said, this is a story about shame. Okay. If some of this is really triggering you, I just want to invite you to begin journaling and journal about some of the things you're feeling, some of your experiences, or, oh yes, like, and I will have people come up with me when I share my story and say, that resonated with me, and like all the reasons. There's so many reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I will have people that will finally like come out and talk about the abuse that happened years ago. They've never, because they realize that when you shed light on the darkness, it's not as bad sometimes, right? But you may want to be in a place. I've done a lot of work on myself over the years to be at this place. And for some of you, it might be getting a coach, getting a counselor. But I think starting with just examining your feelings, there's nothing that will be solved just because you saw this interview today, right?
No,
It's gonna be
no.
just, oh my gosh, I realized that I've never worked through this. So
Yeah.
journaling is a great step, and followed by potentially finding the help of someone that you trust, if you trust to talk to.
I've been sharing every day this week, starting every day with just a journal prompt, you know, nothing specific, but just some really encouraging journal prompts, which have been received really, really well. I think journaling is definitely, you know, it's, and I think I said this on something I spoke about this week, but it's, you know, if you think about your subconscious mind as Google, if you ask it a really, you know, if you narrow your search by asking a really powerful question, it's amazing, you know, what is in there that can help support you. But you're right. And this whole week is not, you know, there's nothing about this week that's going to be a magic pill for anybody, but this week is an intention to help anyone who's part of this to take a small step, you know, or seek someone out, or ask a question, or connect to someone that has resonated with you. And yeah, to keep opening that door, you know, to keep opening that door a little wider and a little wider and a little wider, so that eventually we can step through in a way that is true for us. I think that's so important. You know, everyone's journey through their emotions won't be the same as anyone else's. It needs to be what is true for you. So yeah. Oh my gosh, Terilee, I'm so ridiculously grateful that the universe had our paths collide, because I just, you're a remarkable woman, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on and speak.
Sure.
Now, if anyone reaches out to me, and if anybody wants to know who's resonating and would like to get a copy of Terry's book, just reach out to me and I will send the link out. So that's you know, if anyone's going, how do I get a book? Just send me a DM or put a comment or whatever, and I'll let you know how to do that. So, Terilee, is there anything that, and I've asked everybody this week, is there anything that you haven't shared that you kind of, you know, the little voice has gone, yeah, you need to say this, you need to say this? if there's anything else that you want to add that you haven't already, please go for it.
Oh, thanks. That's a beautiful question to ask. So one thing I would love to share that helped me a lot, and you saw, we talked about the shift for me, right? And that was in seeking the truth. So number one, we have to be aware. And number two, some of it is, they say that the truth will set you free. And many times it does. What we need to realize is, in seeking the truth about a situation, is we might not like what we find, but sometimes what we believe to be true, that for me, what if it's possible, even with the internet, that if that coach that day hadn't said that to me, that I would have never looked it up. It is highly possible, right? And I could be sitting here 11 years later in the same gunk, right? Without a Supergirl cape, etc. Right? We have to realize
tell us how the Supergirl cape came into being for you.
I think it was, that's such a great question. So in Southern California, where I lived before Singapore, they have Six Flags Magic Mountain, and with the amusement park, and they have all the capes. And there was just something about when I saw the capes and I saw the Supergirl cape, and I was like, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. And I don't think I would have wanted it. I don't think I wouldn't have been attracted to that, right? That was not my vibe, my energy, right? But what I say with the cape is, sometimes you have to be your own hero first before you can be the hero of other people's lives.
Yes, what a beautiful, beautiful, if we could end the week on that. There is so much space in that statement. Being our own superhero first before we can be a superhero for others.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful metaphor, Terilee. Beautiful metaphor. Thank you. Is there any final words? Because I kind of pulled you off track with the superhero cape question then.
Something that's been very important for me, and that would be in the journey, because of like I talked about the aftermath of what I'd created, right? Is forgiveness. Forgiveness is super important, whether that's forgiveness for the people that have hurt you, forgiveness, you're seeking forgiveness for what you've done, and also accepting forgiveness from, whether you accept it from God or how whatever your beliefs are, being able to, and forgiving yourself. I believe that offering compassion, we did the best we could at the time. Knowing that we are maybe aren't proud of some of the things we've done, but knowing that we're not going to do those things again. It's in being able to be free, to be open. I think you'll remember, let's close with this. I say one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is to allow others to love you for who you really are.
Gosh. Yeah.
And that's all of it. It's all of it. It's what you've been through, what you've done, and just it's not that I wanted everyone to know all those things about me, but it's part of it. It's part of it.
It really is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's start there. Let's end the week, but let's start there. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I'm so grateful. I really am. I'm so appreciative, and I'm just so appreciative of everybody who's participated this week and has wanted to just know a little more, and be a little more, and be open a little more. So to all of the incredible guests that have been on this week, I will do a wrap-up video in the next, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. I'll do a little wrap when I've allowed it all to wash over me, because this has really expanded me in, too. And I just still don't know why I created this event. I was compelled to do it. And so, yeah, I'm just in receiving of all of it, as well as you all are too. So I just want to, just thank everybody for receiving it. It'll be available. The group the pop-up group I'm going to leave popped up until the end of November. So take your time with it. I didn't, the whole purpose of this week was not to overwhelm. So I've kept it all very quite succinct and not, post on post on post. So you can take your time with it. You can re-listen. I'm available if you want to connect with anyone and you don't know how to, just contact me and I will make that happen for you. You will get a replay tonight. If you missed it and can't watch it, you can take your time over the weekend, or as I said, for the rest of right through to the end of November, and watch all the replays. So so from my heart to yours, Terilee, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Yeah. And thank you guys. And I will see you this afternoon. I've got one final little emotional awareness tool to share with you this afternoon at 4 o'clock Australian time, or Brisbane time. We've got so many times in Australia at the moment, for one country, it's crazy. All right. I'm going to end it there and we will see you in the group. Okay.